Okay, we're back, and this show looks like it should be subtitled The Breakout Show, because Paquito Hornachi, who was on in the first half, he did break out with me, and now my next guest, Paul Nadeau, he and I were actually in the same episode together.
Yes, we were.
Although you didn't make it to the party afterwards, but you know, we told you all about it.
You did tell me all about it.
It's a pleasure having you here, Paul.
It's great being here, Steve. Thanks.
It's great. It's great. This man here is another multilingual actor, just like Mr. Hornachi. How many languages do you speak now?
Well, 3 and a part. I have the English, of course. I've got French, and I've got Spanish, and I've got a little bit of Arabic. I spent a year in the Middle East and picked up some Arabic, so it was really good. And
Now,
I'm working on that.
Why were you in the Middle East?
Well, my background, I was a police officer for 32 years. In that career, I had a wonderful time. Talk about careers. I have been blessed. I was a detective for several years. I worked in a major crime branch, worked in the sexual assault child abuse unit. I was a hostage negotiator. And in 2004, I had an opportunity to go to the Middle East through the International Peacekeeping Branch. They were looking for police officers to go to Jordan and train Iraqi policemen. And I thought, you know, that would be kind of cool. And originally the mission was for 6 months. So I put my name in, I got selected, and I went down. And what a life-altering experience it was for me, and the amazing things that I learned, and the people, really good people.
Right. And that was all part of the recovery after the war in Iraq?
It was
Canada's... To try and help them build them up?
Well, yes. It was Canada's solution, I guess, to not sending soldiers down to Iraq for the war. So as a result, what the government decided to do was to send police officers down to train Iraqi policemen. So we had this camp, this hidden camp in the middle of the desert, and there were probably 150 police officers from all over the world and 3,000 cadets from Iraq. Wow. And many of them were terrorists who had infiltrated the camp. So I've actually had hand-to-hand combat with terrorists because they tried to take over the camp more than once. So it was really interesting.
So they came in under the guise of being trainees and...
Precisely.
Yeah.
Then would feed intelligence over to Iraq and then decide to try to take over the camp and kill the internationals. So
with all those police officers over there from Canada, security was still a problem.
It was. It was.
At the camp.
It was.
So did you have any military support at all, like protecting you at all?
No. We had internationals that assisted. We had a good security group from North Africa, and tough group. But the military would be outside the camp, hoping that everything would take care of itself inside the camp. Right. So that's the way it worked out, and actually I made it through, so it was a great experience, and I don't think anybody ever got killed there, so that was a good thing too.
Well, that's fantastic. That's great to have someone on like you that contributed.
Oh, thank you.
It's great. So that's your background. After hand-to-hand combat with terrorists and training Iraqi trainees to become policemen, where did the acting come in? Did they have a little community theater in the middle of this camp or something?
No, but funny you should ask, because what I did do in the Middle East there, I became an advocate and a counselor for the Iraqis. Originally I was training them, and then a position came open to do some counseling and advocacy for them. So I got that job, and I realized that many of the students had a wonderful singing voice. And at the time, American Idol was quite popular. Right. Now, the culture cannot idolize anything, but I decided that maybe I could approach them because they had to get entertained. You know, here were 3,000 men who many of them had never been away from home for one day, let alone the 10 weeks that they were spending down there. So we had to keep them entertained, keep them from getting depressed. So I came up with the idea to have sort of a little bit of a, we called it JIPTIC, Jordanian International Police Training Center Idol, but we couldn't call it Idol, so we called it Superstar. Superstar, okay. So we had the cadets come over and audition for singing pieces. They were amazing. Didn't understand a thing that they were singing about, but some of the voices were absolutely fantastic.
So it was traditional Iraqi music?
Yes, yeah, it was Arabic music, right. and much of it is very, very lovely. When I got back to Canada, I became the polygraph examiner, and to get back to your answer, my daughter, Cassandra Nadeau, we call her Cassie. Cassie's a marvelous actress, and she has been acting for a long time. And when I got back home, she started to ask me, when are you going to get back into acting? Because I had acted when I was a young man in high school and had decided whether or not I wanted to become an actor or a cop. Almost got a part in Canadian film back in the 70s, and I thought, if I get this part, it was a lead role in a movie, and it came down to 2 of us. Guess what? I didn't get it. A taller man, such as yourself, got it. But getting back to Cassie, she said, when are you going to get back into acting, Dad? And I said, well, when the right play comes along. Shift work, you know, as a cop.
Sure,
it was impossible for me to get back into acting. No. So she found a play for me, Count Dracula. I went out and I auditioned, and I got one of the parts, Dr. Seward, and I absolutely fell in love with theater again.
Right.
And by chance, I met an actor on that play who had an agent here in Toronto. And he says, Paul, he says, after knowing me for 3 months, he says, I think you ought to meet my agent. And I said, sure. I mean, not being one to turn down opportunities.
No,
I'm always looking for the next wonderful thing, right?
Sure.
And I went and I met an agent. I got hired, and ever since then, I've been doing film and television, and it's been fantastic. I got to meet you, got to meet wonderful people.
So many people.
What a wonderful community the acting community is. One thing that I really, truly enjoy and appreciate is when I meet, people like yourself and the other actors and Paco, there's a support out there for the actors. Because you think when you first get into the business, everybody's going to be competing.
Yeah.
Well, yes, it is a competition, but it is not our choice. We go, it's the director's idea, your look, your sound, your talent, all of these things are brought into context. And every actor that I have met, that I've become friends with, have always been supportive. Hey, welcome. Let's try, there's an audition here, come on. It's not like we're trying to hide anything from everybody.
Oh, no.
Everybody loves everybody, and I think that's fantastic.
No, that's very true. I mean, so often, if I have an audition for something, I'll often go to my friends and say, hey, you coming out for that?
Yeah.
Are you going to tell me a little bit about the piece you're planning to do for us?
Well, yeah, you know what? I'm going to do a piece from Army 360.
Ah.
Yeah, it's a military role. It was my audition piece, and the reason I thought about doing it was I do like the military. I'm not getting typecast at all, and that's wonderful, because I don't want to be typecast always as the cop. I'm not being typecast as a cop. But I'd like to do a couple of more military experiences and shows and perhaps film, because there's a lot going on out there. And when you had asked me to come up with an audition piece, this piece came to mind. It was one of the first ones that came to mind. I thought, it's kind of even-keeled, but it's good. And yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, they had some great writing in that series. I was in that, and that was great.
Oh, it was a language unto itself. Oh, and you were in that series. Yeah. Again, you and I crossing paths again. But we never worked together on that piece, but we were in the same show. But here, I had a script, and I'm not kidding. It must have been about yay big. I know you went through the same. Yep.
I believe
we had monologues that were about a page long. We had 3 days to get ready for it. And I'm thinking, what? 3 days? I couldn't memorize this in 3 months, but it worked out, and they were all fantastic. The writing, it was a new language. You had to talk like an American. Yep. You had to talk the military language.
That's right.
And so it was learning something new as we went on, and I thought that was a great experience. A tough one, but
it was tough. It was tough. I enjoyed it. I went down to Arizona for that, and I thought, oh, great, Arizona. Yeah. Well, I felt the heat in more ways than one. There were long days at Fort Huachka.
Yes, I bet they were. Let's take 5, Paul. Now, the American way is this way. All right, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. And yeah. More than one take, but by God, thank God for film. Right?
We forget how Canadian we are, eh?
Hey. Yeah, so that's what I'll be doing for you.
Okay, Paul.
I want to thank you again for having me on the show.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And pleasure to have you.
Great.
We're going to move on to Paul's piece in just a moment. If you would like to be featured on AuditionME or learn more about the show, you can go to our website, auditionme.ca. Get in touch with us on our website. We'd be more than happy to have you.
Sergeant Peterson, Specialist Blair, welcome. It appears we have a common link with Dan Tessler. He was my command sergeant major years ago when I was cutting my teeth as a newly commissioned officer. He emailed me to forewarn me that you were two of his brightest. I hope you can prove him right. First up, I'm going to give you a familiarization brief of the operation order that's already been distributed to the rest of the platoon who've already arrived. Your AO is a small but vital part of a much larger mission. We are engaged in a large-scale operation along the border. A small village here, surrounded by farmland in the Samkani district near the border of Pakistan. Not much is known about this village except that they've been isolated from formal Afghan governmental authority for years. Now, they've had AO contact, but today may possibly be the first time that many of them have come face to face with U.S. troops. Be forewarned, there is heavy Taliban activity in this area, so anything can happen. I want you back in one piece. You're done. Over to you, Smith.
If you would like to be featured on AuditionME or learn more about the show, you can go to our website, auditionme.ca. I'm Stephen Bird, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time on AuditionME.